Kia ora no tātou, me tuatahi te mana whenua torohi nei, te whānau te hapu na iwi o te whanganui e tara, te ate awa, me Ngāti Tō Rangatira, hoki, tēnei tamiki e koutou, huri noa te whānau ko tāmai nei, ana manuhiri o na haue whā, tēnei tamiki e koutou. Morning everyone, it's my pleasure to be here this morning speaking to you about something that I'm incredibly proud to be part of, which is the Ngāi Tahu Culture Mapping Project, which is essentially a project that Ngāi Tahu is undertaking to record all of our histories, traditions, place names, lands, and traditional trails on our own Ngāi Tahu mapping and archival platforms to ensure this knowledge is much more available to our own people. So that's my kaupapa this morning. Thanks to Gavin from Boost for introducing me. He was a bit nervous, but I said to him, you'd do a much better job than most people in my iwi, because when they introduced me down south, they usually refer to me as the world's largest halfback. So I much prefer your introduction, Gavin. And whoever organised my accommodation, thank you very much. I was pretty much in the Flashes Hotel in Wellington, which was much better than last week, where I was on a mattress in someone's house on the lounge with 4 other guys in Kaikoura. And it's not the aftershocks that kept you awake, it's the bloody snoring actually. So, so I had a lovely peaceful sleep last night. Now I'm not a technician at all, I'm not an archivist, I've had no training in libraries or museums. My background is environmental management, but I sort of got shoulder tapped from a few people. When I say shoulder tapped, I really mean bullied into this project. And this isn't a technical talk at all, it's more a story of how an iwi, how a community comes together to tell their story. Because for so long, Ngāi Tahu has never been able to tell our story. And I think one of the most powerful comments I've heard is that when the Ngāi Tahu Māori Trust Board lodged their claim to the Waitangi Tribunal in the 1980s, they sort of had a principle. And it was that if the government pulled the pin, if the tribunal went over, if it all stopped like it had in the past, they would at least tell their story. And essentially, this project is an extension of that kaupapa that was laid down in the 1980s. Adrian, my man, he's running the ship from behind. He's a GIS person. He's worked for Ngāi Tahu now for about 6 months. This is his first live mapping talk, so if he mucks this up, he'll be sacked by the end of this week, so let's hope he nails it, okay? So at the start, I'm going to talk about the background to the project and how it all came about. And this is really important because essentially to do a project like this, you really do need to create trust and life, meaningful, deep relationships. And essentially, that's what this project is built on. Then Adrian will do a live demonstration showing how it all works, and I'll talk about some of the main information sources that we've used. And then at the end, you'll get a sneak preview into our website that we're currently building that'll be launched next year that'll show all this information. But first of all, we're going to play a short video. It's only about 4 minutes long. And it's of some of our kaumātua reflecting on the project over the last 10 years and what it means to them. And you'll see some insights into how we do our work, okay? So I'll play this video and I'll pop back shortly.
Oh, that technology is awesome. I mean, we never had that experience when we were growing up. And when you can actually ride a pauakai up the Waitaki Valley to our Tupuna Lakes and right up to Aoraki and over the top of the passes into Te Tai o Pautini, that's pretty special. I mean, our pai sit and just watch in awe as you guys with all the technology can produce that stuff for us. It's amazing.
So this is a different one actually. This is Coast Valley.
The technological advances have just streamlined it so much. It's just gone here leaps and bounds. And what have we got now? It's actually going to be a incredibly valuable tribal resource, but the process is just so easy to do now. All you need is someone capable of leading the technology, and the rest of us are just happy to bask in the glory of that being available.
So the Ngāi Tahu Atlas, the idea for that came out of the Ngāi Tahu Cultural Summit held at Puketaraki in 2012, where our people explained that they wanted to create a digital atlas of Ngāi Tahu place names out of the culture mapping project. So since then, we've been working towards creating a digital atlas of all of our place names throughout Tuaipounamu.
There's settlement features all the way through.
Our real ability in what we're doing is to create the data behind each name and to come in on the back of a name, locate it on that map and actually get it nailed right down to all the layers of information behind it. That's what makes it different, what we're doing. That's what's so important. Otherwise, we're just having a tourist trip on a drone, but if you're able to go to the data, you can put all the heritage and memory behind each place and put that there and make it accessible for our people, for our mokopuna, for our future. That's the heritage element, is ordering the data behind the map.
To have this idea of a comprehensive package of information pertaining to a name which is just like an onion skin. Peel one back, there's another layer and another layer. It's a fantastic resource for those that are coming after us.
Biggest surprise for me has been the enormity of the project. I thought when I got the message to come and join this project, 2 or 3 years. I think we're now into our 6th or 7th year. And it is still going on. There is still a lot of work to be done.
It is probably more than I expected to happen. What I've got to thank is Takerei's dedication, but also the people who have been confident enough to find material for us to add to it. That is a huge, huge help.
Cool. So we'll start from the very start when I got involved. Has anyone heard of tenure review here? Hands up. Okay, a couple. Radio. So bit of background. The map over there is a map of past releases. These were created in the mid-19th century. They're essentially Crown-owned land and they get leased in perpetuity. And the leaseholder primarily uses it for pastoral farming. And it covers 1/10 of the South Island, about 3 million hectares of land. And we're talking about our most iconic landscapes, like Whakatupu Wai Māori, not Wakatupu, Whakatupu Wai Māori, the Mackenzie Basin, Te Manahuna, Wānaka, Hāwea, okay? And in the 1980s, the government set up a process where land could be freeholded to the leaseholders, okay? And hugely controversial process. It's fair to say a lot of our people in our iwi are not a fan of it, but it was established and that's what we've run with. And when 2002, 2003, I just finished university and I got asked to, would I be interested in working for Ngāi Tahu over summer? And I was like, yep, that beats working in the orchards, that's me. And rocked up to work, had a meeting with 5 other people, and they said, Takerei, you're going to organise 100 tenure review inspections in 3 months. And I'm like, awesome, what on earth is tenure review? And so basically I was organising people from the marae to go and visit these high country stations, and they're about, on average, about 8,000 hectares in size. So they're absolutely massive. They're, you get helicoptered in and 4-wheel drives. It's pretty good fun. But really, from my perspective, the only good thing about tenure review, it was a chance for our tribe to reconnect with the landscape that we'd been excluded from for so long. And so we're visiting these amazing parts of the South Island that really we hadn't been to for generations. And I was the man in charge, which I think was a bad mistake looking back on it now. Okay, and this is my very first tenure review trip. and I'm that clown that's about to fall into the river. And the people in front of me is the government. That's Department of Conservation, and that's Land Information New Zealand. And this photograph sums up where we're at. The Crown just forged ahead, we're miles behind, and we get trapped in the bloody river. And really for the first couple of years, we got nothing really out of it. We were just sort of ticking the box of consultation. Nothing was really happening apart from this sort of reconnection with this amazing landscape. But things all changed a couple of years later. Okay, this is an amazing, one of our most important sites in the high country, a site called Manuhire, and it's up at Lake Hawea. So Lake Hawea is right there, Lake Wanaka is right behind it. And this is an incredibly famous site. And in 2004, our marais visited this station up in Lake Hawea, and they recommended that we get it protected. So that's fair enough. So they wrote this report for me, and they talked about how there was a famous lagoon, and people from the coastline of Otago would always go up there and gather these massive eels, huge amounts, and bring them back. They talked about in 1830 odd, when Ngāti Tama came down, they attacked the settlement. And they'd heard their grandparents just talk about Manuhire and its significance. It's even so important, Sir Tipene Regan named his yacht after it in that. And, hold on, there we go. This is an old photograph I found. So as you can see here, that is the old lagoon that they'd heard about. And when Lake Hawea was raised in the 50s, it took out the lagoon. So the lagoon's no longer there anymore. And that, and the whole past site is sort of all around here. And you can just see a couple of houses. I'll talk about that shortly. But anyway, we prepared a report on Manuhire, and we gave it to the Crown. And they were like, we need more information. If we're going to protect this site, we need more information. And I'm running around, can't really find anything else, struggling. But anyway, over the years, a couple of years I've been working there, people kept saying to me, you should go visit Trevor House. This is Trevor here. He was a negotiator for the Ngāi Tahu claim. He was one of the first employees of the Ngāi Tahu Māori Trust Board. He gave evidence to the Waitangi Tribunal. He is the Ngāi Tahu Archive, the Ngāi Tahu Library, the Ngāi Tahu Environmental Team, Property Team, all rolled into one. As Sir Tipene is the front face of the tribe, this guy is the operational mastermind behind the scenes in that. And he ran Tenure Review in the 80s and 90s, you see. And anyway, so I went out and visited him. Never met him before in my life. Or he came in to see me. And I was pretty nervous, I'm only young. He's like one of the biggest chiefs in our tribe. And when I meet him for the first time, he's bloody enormous. He's massive. Not only has he got mana and presence, but he's huge. And when I hung in him, his hands just covered my arm pretty much. This guy, and I couldn't get over just how big he was. So we had this meeting at work, just me and him. I'm really nervous because I'm only young and don't know him, but he's got this real authority about him. And I say, hey, I'm in a bit of trouble. I need more information about Manuhire. I've got to protect this site. And he's like, son, stop. What is the process? Tell me the process. And I'm like, well, I'm falling in rivers. We're ticking the box. No one's talking to us. I don't know anyone in this whole system. And he loses it. He's just at me. I remember him getting his hands, they're like hammers, just banging his hand on the bloody table, just going at me. You've got no mana, you've got no backbone, you're a tail gunner, there's no mana being back in the process. And I'm sitting there trying not to cry. It's just, it's just horrible when someone you totally respect just slams you. And then he goes, I've had enough, I'm out. Gets up, walks out, and I'm like, oh shit, I've done it now. This is one of the biggest chiefs in the tribe has just walked out on me. And when Mark Solomon hears about it, I'm going to be cut. But I felt really bad, because here's this legend who did all this amazing work, who retired in 1998, whenever it was. He comes back and everything's fallen apart. So I feel I first feel, once I wipe the tears from my eyes and get over that bit, I deep down feel pretty bad. So gave it a couple of weeks, rang him up. It's me here again. Do you think I could come out and visit you? Yep, not a problem. So I go out to his house and I arm myself with the best chocolate biscuits and cakes I can find. And if there's a tip, you deal with any of our people, food is a good starting point, trust me. So we went out to Trevor's place. He lives out by the airport in Christchurch. And I met him and his lovely wife, Jean. And we have this meeting. And I don't know what the words are, but I pretty much say, I'm really sorry that things are pretty bad, but I'm just a kid and I'm here to fix it. But if I'm to fix it, I need your help because you're the man pretty much. And so we have these meetings 3 or 4 or 5 times. And each time he's getting a bit nicer. I'm losing money because I'm buying the flashiest cakes I can find. But at one of these meetings, he says, stay there, son, I've got something to give you. And he goes out to his room. In his bedroom, everyone talks about Trevor House. The joke in the iwi is Trevor House's bed is 7 foot high because it's full of archives and papers and that. Goes up to his bedroom, comes out, and he's got this stack full of information. And it's manuscripts, maps, Waitangi Tribunal evidence. I find this statement written by our people in 1879 about this site. He pulls out this wealth of information. So with this information and the stuff I get from the marais, we're actually able to prepare this pretty in-depth report, give that to the Crown go, we're going to protect it, and we create this conservation area called Manuhia up at the neck at Lake Hawea. And for the first time since I've been involved in tenure review, that was the first thing we really did. It was quite an achievement. Now, you know how I showed you that other photograph, and there's 3 or 4 houses that you could see? We always wondered what they were, whether it was like, I used to say that they were Māori whadis, just to fire people up. But actually, it was part of the public works camp. And this is the camp here, and these guys are actually building the state highway that we went through there. So that's that photograph. Okay, so by this stage, we have created a little group, a paipai of Kaumatua, who are sort of advising me, looking after me. I'm the good-looking fella on the far side. Trevor House. The little wee putu guy is Kelly Davis, and the guy close to me is David Higgins. All 3 of these guys were hugely influential during the Ngāi Tahu claim, during the Waitangi Tribunal. Okay, so these guys have got plenty of mana. They're right at the very top of our tribe. And I say to them, what are the other sites in the high country that we need to protect? What are the other manuhaias? Because I don't want to get blindsided again. I'm sick of fooling in rivers. And we come up with this idea that we should start mapping all of our sites in the high country. And once we know where our main sites are, we can start targeting resources to protect those sites. So I'm like, we're in, let's do this, And we arranged our first ever mapping hui. It was in March 2007. Because I know that date because it was on a Friday, and on the Thursday night I got a phone call from David Higgins at about 10 o'clock at night. He rang me up to tell me that Kelly had just passed away. So it was an incredibly sad moment for all of us. And the next day I talked to Trevor about it, and his words were, we'll give Kelly the send-off he deserves, we'll have his tangi, and after that we're going to crack into this project basically before anyone else passes away. And that's what we did. So we decided to map all of our cultural sites on the high country, and we were really flash, man. Don't worry about computers, we had glasses. So what we'd do, we had 1 to 50,000 topographic maps. If we found a site, we had a glass, put the glass on the map, and draw a line around it. And we had little wee stickers. So a green sticker was like a food gathering site, a blue was a river, black was something else. And we had a label machine. And so we'd type the name out, and it took forever. It was so painful looking back at it now. And people would bring their information, I would bring mine, but we had topographic maps for the whole of the South Island. So you can imagine me setting up 30 maps in a marae so we could map them all. It was just a logistical nightmare. But our people really enjoyed it. They were coming along, they were enthusiastic, they got to hang out with kaumātua. I was feeding them like roast pork for lunch and trifles. It was like people were just loving coming along, learning histories, hanging out with these kaumātua, being part of it all. They just were so enthusiastic. And then we thought, let's go visit every site. That's way better. So we did. And we just, for 3 or 4 years, just had trips up into the high country. We would take 20, 30 people and just go visit all our sites. And our people just loved it. We brought along archaeologists. We had special guest presenters. You know, we're bringing cooks up. Like, we're eating crayfish, paua. People from Bluff are bringing buckets of oysters. You know, like, people are bringing their kids out of school to come along. It was just this time where we were reconnecting with this landscape. It was just so much fun. And by that stage, I was collecting, hey, Hongi, collecting maps and manuscripts, and they would bring their stuff along, and we were just learning and sharing from one another. But it was just such an enjoyable time. And we would have van loads of people just coming and turning up. It was great. Rightio. So by this stage, we've nearly finished our project. We've nearly finished mapping the high country. It's taken like 4 years. So all those dots on those topographic maps, we'll transfer that stuff to ArcGIS, and I had everything else in a spreadsheet. But we're nearly finished the project. We nearly finished the high country. And in my head, I'm like, this is cool, man. I might go play rugby in Europe next year. I might go have a break somewhere. And at one of these meetings, this is actually one of my favourite photos, actually. David Higgins there. This is 2 weeks after he had heart surgery. And we had a mapping hui. And we're like, sorry, Dave, you can't come along. You're too sick. And he goes, well, come to my house. So we did. So we all turned up to David's house and had this amazing mapping hui. But at one of these meetings, they go, okay, Tarks, that's my nickname. Tarks, we've got one more job to do. And I'm like, yep. What is it, fellas? We've nearly finished it. Tarks, just one more small job. I'm like, yep, what is it, fellas? We're now going to map the whole of the South Island. And I'm like, you're flipping crazy. It's taken 4 years to get this far. And I remember saying to them, like, well, I've got to talk to the boss about this because I've got other jobs to do. And they're like, we've talked to the CEO. He's all good. Don't worry about it. It's fine. And anyway, so for me at that time, it's like we've got momentum. People are loving it. There's so much enthusiasm. Let's do it, eh? And so over the last 6 years, that's what we've been doing, mapping all of our histories and place names on our mapping system. And I'll get Adrian to bring it up to have a look at. So what you can see there is 4,000 Māori place names. These place names are pā sites, the kāinga, the food gathering sites, the lakes, rivers, mountains, bays, passes. 4,000 place names. These place names, they are old Māori place names in the South Island, way before Ngāi Tahu migrated down. There are place names from the North Island that we brought down. Last night, Hawangi and I went up to Waifetu. That is a place name, that is a stream in Christchurch. So that name brings down. Kokorarata, that's the name of a stream by the airport. That's our Māori name for Port Levy. We've got names that come back from the Pacific. We've got tupuna names, names of our ancestors, and names that describe the landscape. And there's another 600 place names as well that we haven't mapped because we just don't know really where they are. So 4,500 Māori place names roughly. Now this is the main thing. Every name is referenced. Every place name. I just can't go and put Mount Takerei Norton on there. Every name must be referenced and it must be validated by the local marae. And most of these place names, to be honest, would have 5 or 6 references, not just one. Because what we want to create is the authentic, official portal of Ngāi Tahu history. If you want to know anything about our tribe, about who we are, we want you to come here. Now this is the thing that blows me away. We've probably used about 500, 600 information sources so far, and we're talking about 19th century maps, published books. The guy from Papers Past, like, that website is phenomenal because so many people, historians, wrote articles about Ngāi Tahu histories and place names in the early 20th century. And so that Papers Past website, I don't know whether the guys here or not, but it is just unreal, man. Maps, manuscripts, original survey maps, but everything must get referenced. But the thing that is crazy though, is that out of all of those information sources, only one is not held by the Crown. That is, like, I find that astonishing. You guys are pretty much the primary holders of the original information sources of my tribe's history. I've got copies and copies and copies, but you guys have the originals in that. So if our people don't know how to use Haken, or they don't know how to go up to Auckland, they can't go to Wellington, how can they actually see the history? How can they know it? And what we want to do is our people come here, we reference it all, they can see a place name, they can see where the name come from, we can push them out to you guys. We want this place to be our first port of call. And so we might do a bit of flying around and check a few places out. So Adrian will go to Te Puna Amaru. This is a famous past site on the southern bank of the Waitaki River. Now this is the original survey map of the native reserve. And I need to acknowledge Chris Adam and Rosie Ballantyne at Archives New Zealand, who were doing this awesome project with them, digitising all the original survey maps held in Christchurch. And that is just fantastic. But you can see here, that says native gardens. Over here, that's the past site right there. And the past site is home of a famous Ngāi Tahu chief called Te Huruhuru. And Adrian, do you want to bring up the map or the photograph? This is a sketch of that past site. It was done in 1848 by a guy called Walter Mantell. And I'm not going to talk about Walter Mantell one bit, okay? But this is his sketch. And I again have to acknowledge the National Library for this work we're doing with them, getting all his stuff digitised. But this is the drawing of this past site right here. And in his sketchbooks, he's got all of these drawings, and he names where they all are. And the thing is, I know where all those places are. So what we're going to do is map all of those photographs in its right location and share that with everyone else later on. But anyway, in 1844, Edward Shortland, he, I think is titled Protector of the Aborigines, something like that. Anyway, he's taken a census of the South Island Māori population, and he walks from Dunedin up to Akaroa somewhere. And he can't cross the Waitaki, it's in flood. So he stays there, and he meets Te Huruhuru. And while Te Huruhuru's there, he draws this amazing map for him. Adrian? This is the earliest map we have of Central Otago. This here is Lake Wanaka. That there's Lake Hawea. That looks like a third lake, but it's actually Stevenson's Arm, and its Māori name is Wairiki. But this is the earliest map we have of Central Otago. Do you want to come down here, Adrian? That's the one. Okay, this is what we now call the Matukituki Valley, but its traditional name is really Matakitaki. And you see here, Nihi Nihi, that's not a place name, that describes the big forest, the dense forest that was there. Do you want to go to the top, Adrian, top left? Yeah, keep going, bud. See here, 2 days travel to Awarua on the west coast. I mean, I couldn't do that in 2 days, but those guys probably would have, you know. But these old maps have these old place names that describe the landscape. And Adrian, do you want to come down to Maruhaya? And that Maruhaya site we wanted to protect, that's it there. Manu Fire, and that's the lagoon. So basically what we do is that we go out and find these amazing maps and these manuscripts, we bring them in and we analyse them all with our kaumātua and with our people on the ground. We put that information onto our mapping project. Back to Google Earth, Adrian. Yeah, and we'll show you, bring up all the trails. So these green lines, these are all the traditional travel routes our people used. Travelling from settlement to settlement, from settlement to food gathering site. And when I see this map, I always think of a guy called Joe Walker. When I first couple of years at work, Environment Canterbury, the regional council, said to me, Takerei, we're going to contract you to map all of your sites and you're going to give it to us. And I'm like, oh yeah, sweet bro, that sounds good. And so I go down to Temuka, just near Timaru there, and I meet with a guy called Joe Walker and the kaumātua. Now Joe is renowned for being the grumpiest guy in the tribe. And I'm then like, hey Joe, my name's Takerei, lovely to meet you for the first time. I'm here to map all your sites and give it to ECAN. And he's like, you what? I'm like, yeah bro, it's all good man, I'm gonna map your sites, give it to ECAN. And for 2 hours, he argued with me. He refused to do anything. And I always remember when it was time for lunch, and he goes, righty mate, you're a nice kid. You can stay for lunch, and after that, you can F off back to Christchurch. And I'm just like, shit, I'm getting hammered from everyone. And over lunch, I said to him, well, could we just map sites and not give it to ECAN? He's like, that sounds cool. So we did. And I always remember, he said to me, because maybe I'm just coming into this sort of stuff, I don't know much about it. He said to me, the east coast of the South Island, that was State Highway 1. That was the main trail, north and south. And then every river was a trail into the high country. And he's 100% right. That's a trail there, and every river goes up, you know. So we've mapped all these travel routes, and we're researching the history of all of these ones as well. Māori land, Adrian. Shot bud. Those tiny, small, distant red dots are the original Māori land allocated to our people. It's not 1/10 as it was supposed to be. It are these tiny, tiny dots. This is the Ashburton Reserve. This is actually allocated to people in Kaipoi because the government gave away all land up in North Canterbury, so they said, go move to Ashburton, live there. And they're like, what? And then whatever happens, it now becomes a golf course. And that, so we're researching history, we're researching the history of every piece of Māori land. Who was allocated to, under what instrument, and what happened to it. Place names, reserves, trails. They are the three main things we're researching on. And now I want to talk about some of the maps. We'll bring up the Betty map. Adrian? This map is awesome. This map was done by a guy called Harry's Beatty. He was the greatest collector of Ngāi Tahu place names. Born in Gore in 1880 odd, moved up to Waimatu, I think. But he went around and interviewed so many of our people, and he wrote these outrageous journals and diaries and notebooks. This guy is a machine. He is interviewing people everywhere. And we owe, as a tribe, a huge debt to people like Beatty and Taylor and these other Pākehā historians, because if they didn't do it, the reality is we'd have nothing to work from. And when you look at Beatty's work, he wrote these articles in the Otago papers back in the 1930s, whatever it was. Our people are writing to him saying, Harry Beatty, you're the man. This is awesome. Can I get 5 more copies? I want to hand them out to people. Like, our people are embracing it. And he wrote all these books in the 1940s, and these books became like Bibles to our people. When Joe Walker told me to go back to Christchurch in a blunt manner, he had Beatty's books with him. He was quoting Beatty. If you look at our tribunal evidence, people are quoting Beatty. The generations of our people were brought up on this sort of stuff. And we should never whakaiti the work that they did. But there are huge mistakes. When you look at the work closely, when you go through it all, there are some massive mistakes. And the job of my generation is to do what BT and Taylor and them did and raise up a couple of bars, get it up there. And I want to show you how we're doing that. Just quickly, next week in Bluff, Adrian and I down there, we're going to map all that stuff there. And we've got all the information from papers past. So that guy's the man wherever he is. Okay, 1880 map, Adrian. Now that map was cool, but this is way better. This map was done in 1879 by a guy called Takerei Norton, and his great-granddaughter is just over there. And I can confirm she cooked up a good boil up, eh? That was last night's dinner, pork bones and puha. This map is amazing, 1879. The government sets up a royal commission into the Ngāi Tahu land claims. And Tairua, he's a member of parliament representing Southern Māori. He has all these meetings, all these huis with Ngāi Tahu communities. Dunedin, Oamaru, Timaru, Temuka, Tuahiwi, Taumotu. And people turn up and they map and record all of their food gathering sites. This is 1879. This is an amazing map. That's the Waitaki River right there. And that's the coastline. That's probably Timaru right there. This map is full of our food gathering sites. Now, BT gets a copy of this map. He gets a copy. And what he does, he writes every name into his book. Every name. And he tries to translate every name as well, which is absolutely what you should not be doing, especially when you don't understand Māori. But anyway, BT puts all these names in his book. And we're going to shoot up to Te Pū, Adrian. That's one, bud. So I'll give you an example of some of the mistakes made. And it's not to whakaiti them, like I said. It's about to correct it and pass it on to the next generation. So this name here. So BT has seen this name, and he looks at it, and he spells it Pū Nono Kuri. Then you go back to the PowerPoint, Adrian. He might get sacked. Here we go. Next one, bud. Okay, so this is Māori Patients of Canterbury. This is his book. And you can see here, that's how he's written the name out. And you can see here, he tries to translate the name. Now, his book's got pages and pages of this. What he doesn't realise is that there's a couple of notebooks that go off this map. Next slide, bud. And that's its real name there. Te Pū Korokoro. And what is it? It's e kāinga nohoanga, it's a settlement. E kāinga mahinga kai, it's a food gathering site. E pā tūturu, it's a traditional pā. And what feeds are gathered there? We've got potatoes, fern root, tutu, eels, raupo. And so the job of my generation is to look at Betty and Taylor and these guys have done and just tidy up a wee bit. So when you come into our mapping system, when you go to this site, 5 minutes. Okay, we're ready to rush through this. You go to our site, you click on the name, and you'll get Te Pū Korokoro. You'll get the traditional name. Okay, so basically we do all this work, got all this information, we've got it in a spreadsheet. How ridiculous is that? So we decide to build a place names database. Do you want to bring that up, Adrian? And so as you can see here, 4,600 place names. Do you want to bring up Te Pū Korokoro, bud? Yeah, that's the one. Oh, maybe not. Shit, he's going to be sacked. Don't defend him. All good, man. Should we just go to the website, eh? Okay, but anyway, we build this database. And what we do is we create a data structure for Ngāi Tahu place names. There's no template to follow, nothing's been done before, but we create this template of Ngāi Tahu place names. And what we do, we go out to the maraes, and people come to us, and we sit there and record place names in the database that is live. So we go there, put it all in, and it's saved, it's done and dusted. And the lady yesterday talked about access. That's so true, because so many of our elderly, our kaumatua, can't go up to the high country, but what they do is they come to the marae, we map there with them, and they love it. And they run up to the map, and they're pointing at places, they're screaming at us, go left, go right, but we can map sites right down to its correct location. And they love it, and they turn up, and they hang out with all of us. Here's the database here, won't go through it all, we're running out of time. But basically all you do, you put the name in here, put in the markers, but you place the name in, you fill out all this sort of stuff. Come down, Adrian. Come down to research, click on spelling. This is the crucial part, okay? So many times you have to make a decision on how you spell the name and where the name should go. So what we do, we are as transparent as possible. We record all of that. Because these other guys back in the day, they just say, an old Māori person told me that place name. But I was like, who is an old Māori person? That's crucial. So in here, when we make decisions, we explain why, we say who, and we say when. Because if I'm wrong with this name, I'm not wrong, but if I was wrong, people in the future can see what we've done, they can look at it, they might find something else that they haven't got, and they'll write their bit of information in there. So we're creating this transparent whakapapa of why we're making decisions on certain place names. Come down, this is the other crucial part. Everything gets referenced. Everything must get referenced. And where we can, we always identify the Ngāi Tahu informant, because these people get missed out. It's always the old Māori person, the old Māori auntie. They never really say who they are all the time. But we will always reference the Ngāi Tahu person if we can. And so far we've identified about 150 of these people, and we've got students writing biographies on all of them. Okay, mapping website, Adrian. We'll finish up there. So our people said, we want to create a Ngāi Tahu Atlas of place names, a public website. So that's what we've been working on. And here's a sneak preview into our website here. It's going to have videos, quotes from our kaumatua, of biographies of all of them. You'll read about the history of the mapping project, how it all came about. Quickly view the atlas, Adrian, before my mate kicks me off stage. Here it is here. Zoom out. So you can click on any one of these place names and it will have a 200-word narrative on the history of that name. And everything gets referenced. So you come here, click on the name, read about it, let's go down the references, bud. You can look at the references, and if you see the map is from the Auckland Museum, you go hit them up. Or we might have a copy as well, we'll see. But people come here, they look at it, and we want schools, we want museums, we want libraries to use this. We want people to know that Tekapo ain't Tekapo, Tekapo is Takapo, and Wakatipu is Whakatipu Wai Māori. So this will be a forum for all of the schools in Tuaipounamu, all of the museums, all the libraries to use. And just go back to the website, bud. I'll just wrap up on one final site. Acknowledgements. I asked Trevor House a couple of weeks ago, who started this whole thing, I said, if there's one thing I would say, if there's one thing you would say to everyone, what would you say? And he said, in this grumpy voice, you tell them that this was done by the ordinary Ngāi Tahu person. And I think that's why this project has been so successful. It hasn't been done for us, we've done it ourselves. We've paid for every field trip, every mapping hui, we've paid for every one of these mapping programs, we buy all the licenses, but we've done it for us. And I think when you've got skin in the game, when you really work hard for something, you know, the amount of late nights, early starts, weekend work, when you really fight hard, when you really work hard for something, you want it to be successful and you're going to use it. And I can only see in the future more iwi doing this sort of stuff. And all we're asking for, we're not asking them to hold our hand, all we're saying is that if you've got information pertaining to my tribe's history, We just want access to it. So we can bring it to life, so we can give it to our people, and our people can use it to tell their stories, but more importantly, ensure that our culture is ever evolving going forward. So, nō reira i te whānau. Thank you for listening to me. Thanks for Adrian. He's going to keep his job. Thank you for the forum for inviting me up. And I'll be floating around all day, so come have a chat. I'll probably be by the ice cream machine up there, so talk to me there if you want. But thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.